Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Graps. I am your host, Joe Gierer, and thankful to say that this week's episode should be shorter, should be definitely less compact and less busy than the last couple, maybe the last one at least, because last one we had to break down a PLE that had happened, review 3 shows, and then predict the PLE. So that was a busy one. Today we're just breaking down a PLE, that being Vengeance Day that NXT ran over the weekend. We have to break down last night's NXT, Monday's Raw, and Friday's SmackDown, which had big implications on WrestleMania, which we'll talk about. I feel like it happened. So I'm talking about the WWE title change, if you didn't know. It feels like it happened so long ago now, but it's really only been, 5 days, less than a week. And I have my thoughts on that, which we'll get to. But without further ado, we'll hop into it. And today, I'm running a reverse episode. We're doing NXT first. NXT Vengeance Day, NXT last night. And then from there, I will transition into main roster stuff. So if you're watching and you're not an NXT listener and you are not interested in learning anything about NXT, this first part of the show is not for you, although I recommend it. NXT is a pretty good show, but nonetheless, let's get right into it with Vengeance Day, of course, starting with Blake Monroe versus Jada Parker. They had a street fight, and last week in my prediction, I said I really had no direction on it. I didn't really know which way things were going to go with that matchup because, at first I thought Jada, then Blake came out, stood on the desk, said that Jada got what she wanted. She brought hell out. They were going to have a street fight. From that point, I think I picked Blake Monroe to win. If I look back at my notes, yes, I picked Blake Monroe to win that street fight, and she indeed did defeat Jada Parker in the street fight, ultimately by use of diamonds that she dumped on the canvas, threw some at Jada's face, and put her face first on the diamonds in order to get the 1, 2, 3. Very fun match, very fun way to start the show, and it kind of set the vibe and set like the precedent for what the expectation for that show was to be, because it was definitely chaotic. And I thought overall a fairly entertaining show by NXT. I enjoyed myself watching. There's a segment again between Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, which they've been working together, if you want to say that, these last, few weeks, month, maybe, couple of months. I don't know how long they've actually been technically in cahoots with one another, but Ricky just told Ethan that he wants him out there tonight, unlike what happened on Tuesday. So Ricky Saints wants Ethan Page out in the ring to help him, unlike he did when Joe Tendry, quote unquote, attacked him at the end of the Absolute Experience on Tuesday's NXT, which was, talked about that last week. It was not good. It was not good stuff. But Ricky Saints had a big match. Ethan Page said he would be out there. That ultimately ended up being a lot more important than I think I anticipated when it was suggested. Maybe I thought it'd just be a failed interference, but it ended up being a little bit more significant and fled over into last night's episode of NXT that came. Now, second match on the card. Deion Lennox and Tony D'Angelo. Spoke about it last week. Tony D'Angelo said he wanted to take out Dark State, take everything away from them, and it would culminate with him beating Deion Lennox at Vengeance Day in a match that I believe was set up last week. It was nothing, no street fight, no stipulation. It was just a simple one-on-one match, or it was supposed to be, but that's not how it turned out, because Deion Lennox was waiting outside in the parking lot for Tony D'Angelo to get there. Tony D'Angelo eventually got there. They brawled in the parking lot. Dark State got involved. OTM came to assist Tony, although they said later on in the show it was not for Tony. It was just to get at Dark State because those two have some beef, those two tag teams. But OTM, I guess indirectly then, assisted Tony D'Angelo. They had a fiery brawl in the backstage area, he and Deion Lennox, and eventually spilled out by the ring when they came through. I don't even know the name of the thing, that little stand they have by the announce table. They broke through that. They bust through that. And finally got in the ring at some point, got the match going. And ultimately, it was Tony D'Angelo getting the win and completing phase one of his comeback, as he said, because he said there was two reasons, and he had to get through Dark State before revealing the second, which he did reveal on NXT on Tuesday. But Tony D'Angelo completed phase one, beat Dion Lennox, pinned him 1, 2, 3. So his chapter, it seems, with Dark State is over. Tony D'Angelo will be done with Dark State. And that was another prediction correct that I made last week for the card. I said Tony D'Angelo would win. It felt obvious, I would say. Maybe not obvious is the word, but it did kind of feel obvious in the sense that Tony D'Angelo has no reason to drop that match to Dion Lennox and continue feuding Dark State further. If he just came back and ran through them as he wanted to, it would make the most sense. So Tony D'Angelo getting that job done, definitely the right move. Moved him on to bigger and better things, as we'll talk about when we get to last night's NXT. But very hectic start to the show. We had a street fight, and then we had a ones match that started out in the parking lot with a huge brawl. So it was very, very high energy show, to say the least. The energy only picked up in the next match when Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame faced off for the Women's North American Championship. And on the show last week, I don't remember my exact reasoning, but I did say I thought Izzy Dame would overcome Tatum Paxley in some regard, whether it was clean or whether it was by outside interference, and she would retain the North American Championship. She's a little bit young into her reign. I think it started maybe a couple of months ago. I think it reached 60 days, they said, on the... Sorry, it was my brother. Hold on one second. Sorry, my brother called me multiple times. I had to see if something was wrong. Anyways, to get back to what I was saying, I thought Izzy Dame was going to beat Tatum Paxley and retain the Women's North American Championship, and I thought that feud would probably continue forward into Tatum Paxley eventually winning the title. That's just what I thought was going to happen. That is not what happened, because Tatum Paxley did overcome Izzy Dame and win the North American Championship from her, which I guess might have been expected to some people. For me, personally, it wasn't. I didn't think she was going to win. There was always a chance, and I said on the show, you could fact check me, last week, I said I would rather Tatum Paxley be the winner because I am a fan of Tatum Paxley, and I think she would be a fun champion. And that's exactly what happened. She overcame Izzy. She overcame the calling, because the calling was out there. And she won herself the North American Championship. And interestingly enough, if you go back to September or parts of October, Tatum Paxley had never been champion in WWE, and I think she's been here for 4 or 5 years. So long run, no championships. They instilled some faith in her to have a 4-week championship run in October, which unfortunately I saw come to an end live at Gold Rush at MSG. But I guess they saw something in her finally to give her a championship. And she's now the second person in the women's division ever to hold both the NXT Women's Championship and the North American Championship, next to Stephanie Vaquer, the current Women's World Champion, who's going to defend at WrestleMania. That is some pretty good company for Tatum Paxley, and it shows that the company has some belief in her now, and they trust her, and they hear the fans. The fans love her, myself included. So very happy to see that happen. Very happy to see that happen. Glad to be wrong. I think I said last week I'd hope I was wrong, and I was wrong, and I'm very happy to be wrong. But what I was right about is that the Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame feud is maybe not far from over, but it's not over yet. That thing will continue into next week, which I will get to. Now, there's a segment in the middle of the show where JC Jane came out, got a promo, was interrupted by Zarya, who gave a little promo, was interrupted by Sol Ruca, who gave a little promo. Robert Stone said he had to address the future of the women's NXT championship, and he did just that. He set up a triple threat match. JC Jane will defend the NXT Women's Championship in a triple threat match in Houston, which is next week's NXT, against Zarya and Sol Ruca. I don't think they're going to do a title change 2 weeks out from Stand and Deliver. Maybe they will, and they'll run something with Sol and Zarya, or I don't even know at this point. But we have an NXT Women's Championship match next week. Triple threat. Felt like a long time coming. I don't really have a prediction on who's going to win. I guess I just said they won't do a title change yet, so I guess I'm picking JC Jane, but I don't know how she's going to win. If she does, I don't know. So don't consider that an official prediction. And I mean, we can't even come back in here next week and see if I was right or wrong, because we don't have school. We don't have activity on the campus. Spring break. This is the last time you'll see me for a couple of weeks. But we'll break down what happened in that match when I come back in a couple of weeks, because obviously NXT Women's Champion will have major implications at Stand and Deliver. The match last year was a fatal four-way match for the belt between Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Jordan Grace, and I don't even remember it. Was it a triple threat? It may have been. Jada Parker, I think, might have been involved in it. But either way, like, star-studded. And JC Jane, Zarya, Sol Ruca, whoever wins is primed to be in a, not only on the card, but in a major spot on the card defending that championship. So we'll have to see what happens next week in Houston. Backstage, a tag match got set up. Tavion Heights, Charlie Dempsey, little NQCC reunion was agreed upon for last night's episode of NXT. They would go on to face Lexis King and Uriah Connors of the Birthright, the new faction of Nepo babies, if you want to call it that. They would have a tag match last night, which, again, we'll get there. What happened? NXT Underground, Lola Vice versus Kalani Jordan. Genuinely zero doubt in my mind going into this match that Lola Vice was going to win, because Lola Vice going in was undefeated in the Underground. She is the one that comes from MMA, fought in Bellator. It's major part of her character that these fists, what I did was different than what you did. She said that, talking to Kalani Jordan, saying that, MMA and gymnastics are not the same. So, I mean, NXT Underground match, it's kind of Lola Vice's forte, and she's not going to lose that. She was going in with a hurt hand, played a factor in the matchup, but ultimately didn't matter. Hit the spinning back fist, knocked out Kalani Jordan, bit of ground and pound before the referee stepped in. And these matches are kind of difficult to call in terms of their quality and how good they are. I think they did a good job, but NXT Underground is a bit difficult because, like, it's not a traditional wrestling match in the sense of pinfall 1, 2, 3. You can't have close counts. It's just straight knockouts and submissions like an MMA match. And obviously, mixed martial arts is unscripted, real fighting. WWE is scripted, real fighting. So I don't know how I feel about it. Obviously, most times they're underwhelming. I think that's consensus, that the NXT Underground matches are sometimes underwhelming. I don't think this one was anything special, but I do think they had a good match. They utilized, Lola Vice's hurt hand well, showed some of her MMA prowess. She was pulling rear naked chokes. She was trying to pull guillotines, triangle chokes, everything. Throw the kitchen sink at Kalani Jordan, who was able to deal with it for a little bit before she caught the back fist, went down, and got jumped on. So Lola Vice won. It's another prediction correct because, like I said, I don't think there was any doubt that Lola Vice was going to come out victorious in that match. And another match where I didn't think there was much doubt in was the main event, Joe Hendry versus Ricky Saints. Pretty good match. I think they both did well. Big point of the match was Ethan Page coming out. As we spoke about earlier, Ricky Saints wanted him to come out. There he was. But Ricky asked for the championship belt. Ethan took it, and Ethan Page was just walking, smiling, and staring at that championship belt. And obviously, Ethan Page has lost the North American Championship to Miles Bourne. Had an impromptu rematch last week, lost that as well. And the whole thing with Ricky Saints and Ethan Page was there was going to be two-time champions. Ethan Page, two-time North American champion, and Ricky Saints, two-time NXT champion. That's at least what Ricky Saints says. But seems as though Ethan Page has his eyes fixated on the NXT championship going into Stand and Deliver, which is why I say that interference or that call for action from Ricky Saints would turn out to be more important than you maybe would have anticipated going into the Stand and Deliver event. But Ethan Page took a little bit too long, slid the title past Ricky Saints, shot it too far. Referee ultimately saw it. Ricky Saints still took advantage. Low blow Joe Hendry didn't work. He was able to survive. Joe Hendry went low on Ricky Saints, which I like because I think it's a bit ridiculous when baby faces won't pull the trigger at all, especially on heels that have no problem pulling the trigger on them. So I really liked that move by Joe Hendry's character. It allows you to take him a little bit more seriously than just the fun little say his name and he appears gimmick. So I like that addition, and that ultimately led Joe Hendry to retain the NXT Championship to close the show at Vengeance Day. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Thought the matches were good. Pretty enjoyable overall. And that carries us right into last night's edition of NXT. And might I say, in a night where a bunch of weird things happen in sports, you had Italy beat Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. You had freaking Bam Adebayo score 83 points in an NBA game, the second highest number ever. And if you want to include it, the Ravens backed out of a Max Crosby deal. Max Crosby is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. It was just a weird day, just a weird night in sports where a lot of just odd things happened. But the one thing I can say that remained the same is that NXT put on a pretty good weekly show, as I think they do most weeks. But NXT is in a pretty good spot. Let's talk about Tatum Paxley, the fallout from her North American Championship win. That's what opened the show. She and the Calling are still going at it. By she and the Calling, I mean she and Izzy Dame. Of course, Izzy Dame is not done with Tatum Paxley. She won't go away that easy. As for what happened with that whole group in last night's show, we opened with Tatum Paxley. She was cutting a nice sentimental promo to the fans, giving thanks, saying she won the North American Championship for them instead of winning the NXT Women's Championship for the Calling and Izzy like she did last time. That prompted her to be interrupted by Izzy, who showed a video package of old Tatum Paxley, who looks like a different person compared to this Tatum Paxley now, and used it to call her fake and said that she's still that same little girl that's trying to fit in. And she called her a chameleon, said she's fake. That was the main point of the promo, said she was fake. And then she laid out Tatum to close the segment. That's how we opened the show. For the remainder of the show, Izzy Dame was trying to leave, and Tatum Paxley was trying to hawk down Izzy Dame and the Calling. And she happened to run into a familiar face on this show now, Shiloh Hill. And once that happened, it was like, oh boy, something is going to happen, because those two, in kayfabe, of course, are not all there. There's something off with them, especially Shiloh Hill in kayfabe. So kayfabe, whatever the better pronunciation of the word is. But the point is, once they ran into each other and Tatum said, I need to get Izzy before she goes, Shiloh said, I can help with that. I knew that at some point in the show we were going to revisit this, and something weird was either going to happen or had been done. That was 100% the case, because when we revisited this whole thing, Shiloh Hill had taken apart not only the Cullings car, but he took apart every single car in the NXT parking lot because he just wasn't sure which one was the Cullings, which is just something only this guy can get away with on that show. Um, might I say, the addition of Shiloh Hill to NXT has been superb. I thought he was the right winner of LFG last season. This only further confirms it because, I mean, he's doing some funny things. He's doing some funny things. And that ultimately culminated with later in the show, in the parking lot, Tatum Paxley attacked Izzy Dame, and Robert Stone set up a steel cage rematch for next week for the North American Championship. I think Tatum Paxley is going to win that. I feel pretty confident in saying that. Although they gave her a short title reign with the NXT Women's Championship, didn't let her get a successful defense. I'm hoping this time is different, or else her winning the belt from Izzy just feels like it was, useless other than to just put the belt on her for 2 weeks. It wouldn't even be 2 weeks, actually, if she lost it. So I'm pretty confident that Tatum Paxley is going to come out of that match a winner somehow. Steel cage should be entertaining. Their match at Stand and Deliver. Seems like they might have a match at Stand and Deliver. But their match at Vengeance Day was super entertaining, super good, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, back to Ethan Page and Ricky Saints. They both agreed in the backstage, after a bit of arguing, of course, because these guys can't get on the same page. They agreed that they're both champions. They're both championship material. This is only a slump. This is not them. And they had a tag match coming up later that night in the main event with Joe Hendry and Miles Bourne, who are obviously the two reigning champions that they're chasing. So big night for those two. And normally I'd hold off, but I don't think this was as important. It wasn't like anything spectacular that happened. So I'll just go into it now. The main event match, Joe Hendry, Miles Bourne versus Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, which there was a run-in with Miles Bourne and Joe Hendry where they game planned in the backstage earlier where they ran into Ren Sinclair. Kendall Gray was stuffing her face with cake. But all jokes aside, in their match, Ricky Saints had some get back on Ethan Page for what happened with the title at Vengeance Day. Slid the belt in the ring, slid it right past Ethan. Couldn't tell if it was done on purpose or if it was done unintentionally. But nonetheless, that happened. And then finally, third time's a charm, they say. They got it to work on the third try. But Ethan Page tagged himself in when it seemed like Ricky Saints was coming up on the end of the match. So regardless of the whole belt thing, they were still button heads and still arguing. Ultimately, though, Ricky Saints was drop kicked out. Referee lost his. He was distracted by Miles Bourne trying to get him back out the ring. Ethan Page used the NXT Championship from in the ring, hit the twisted grin on it, pinned Joe Hendry 1, 2, 3. So this whole two-time, as Booker would say, this whole thing with Ethan Page and Ricky Saints is not going in Ricky Saints' favor because now Ethan Page, who was eyeing that NXT championship already, just pinned the NXT champion in the middle of the ring. Regardless of tag action, regardless of how he did it, he pinned the NXT champion in the middle of the ring, which is something that didn't happen for Ricky Saints. He couldn't do it. So I mean, Ethan Page is in a lot better position right now than Ricky Saints is. And that didn't go well with Ricky Saints because Ricky looked very disgruntled at the end of the show when they were posing to, close it off. Ricky Saints looked extremely disgruntled. So I'm thinking triple threat. Stand and Deliver. Joe Hendry versus Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page. And it could end up being a fatal four-way or something of that sort because Tony D'Angelo, as I said before, revealed goal number 2 in a promo where he said that he was coming for Joe Hendry. It's kind of what we assumed it would be. But Tony D'Angelo revealed that he was coming for Joe Hendry for the NXT Championship, said it was personal to him, and he will break Joe's face if he has to, instead of last year where he said he would break bread with him. So Tony D'Angelo in the NXT Championship hunt, Ethan Page in the NXT Championship hunt. Ricky Saints still wants the NXT Championship. Joe Hendry's the hunted. Feels like it might be a fatal four-way there, but we'll have to see what happens. There's a triple threat match, Jasper Troy versus Eli Knight versus Sean Legacy, in which Keanu Carver interfered and put Jasper Troy through the announcer's table after something that happened with them last week, where Keanu Carver said that he's not scared of Jasper Troy, or Jasper Troy said he's not scared of Keanu Carver. I can't remember which one it was, if not both ways. But Keanu Carver laid him out. Jasper Troy somehow, after some really good ones action by Eli Knight and Sean Legacy, those two are super, not to make a joke about Sean Legacy's whole thing, super Sean Legacy. But anyways, Jasper Troy somehow came back into the match after being put through a table and ultimately got double pinned by Legacy and Knight. So Eli Knight and Sean Legacy both picked up the win over Jasper Troy by double pinning him. And in the backstage, they were trying to figure out what this meant. They both wanted the Speed Championship. They wanted Ilio LaFleur, the French luchador. Ilio LaFleur wanted one of them, didn't want it to be tournament-based because he said that takes too long. It defeats the purpose of the championship, which I tend to agree. So I thought they were going to make a triple threat. That's not really what happened because the Vanity Project showed up, and it seemed like Legacy and Knight diverged their attention to a potential tag run at the Vanity Project and the NXT Tag Team Championships. And that was confirmed later in the night when Robert Stone announced a tag team tournament where the winners will face the Vanity Project at Stand and Deliver for the belts. And in the tournament, I don't remember all the teams, but it seemed like OTM was going to be in the tournament. It seemed like Dark State was going to be in the tournament. That's no longer the case because them two got into another big brawl backstage upon this announcement. And Stone said he banned them from the tournament. So they're both out of the tournament. And the Vanity Project also, I'll mention, will go 3-on-3 in 6-man action against Los Americanos next week, which came out of nowhere. I don't know why that's happening, but I mean, shoot, I'm all for it. Those guys are great. It's going to be a good match. So see what happens there. But the tag team tournament, Sean Legacy and Eli Knight are competing in it, which is why I said that was confirmed later on. Will they win it? I don't know if they'll win it yet and compete on Stand and Deliver, but I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, those two as a tag team are going to function really well together, no doubt in my mind. But they have some stiff competition that they're going against. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. So Rook had a match, little tune-up against Laney Reed, gained a bit of momentum going into next week's championship match. Zarya did not interfere. She only watched, which was a little bit surprising to me. But Ruka picked up a win going into her match next week in Houston. And it seems that Blake Monroe has her eyes set back on the North American Championship. In a backstage interview, ran across Tatum Paxley, stared down the championship, stared down her, and said that some things in here aren't right. He was referencing, obviously, Tatum Paxley holding the North American Championship. Blake Monroe in a title match at Stand and Deliver makes total sense. So we'll have to see what happens there. But speaking of title matches, Ren Sinclair faced Thea Hale in the final of the Speed tournament. Ren Sinclair picked up a win after Thea kind of tweaked her arm. Ren locked in the submission, got her to tap out, give up. She will face Fallon Henley next week for the Women's Speed Championship in Houston. Ren is a Texas girl, which makes sense. I didn't know that before last night, but it makes total 100% sense why she won that match now. And her running mate, Kendall Gray, who is somehow still the Evolve champion. I thought that'd be off her by now. They wanted to get her in the NXT Women's Championship picture, but she wanted to kind of call her shot for Stand and Deliver against JC Jane, said that she will be facing her for the NXT Women's Championship. They haven't ran that rematch yet. It's been a couple of months. I'd like to see it. I'd be totally fine with Kendall Gray being my NXT Women's Champion because I'm a big fan. So, I mean, yeah, I want that rematch, but it's good to see Kendall Gray still has eyes for it because she hasn't been actively involved in that picture for a couple of months now. And last but not least, we're going to be in Houston, Texas next week for NXT, which means home of the great Booker T. And that means Booker T Appreciation Night, as they announced last night on NXT. We will be appreciating the two-time Hall of Famer, multiple-time world champion, the great Booker T. So, yeah, good way to close out our NXT segment. I don't believe I missed anything. I did not. That's what happened for NXT last night. Now, if you're somebody that does not watch NXT and was not interested, like I said at the beginning of the show, now we talk about what you care about. Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown. Speaking of Friday Night SmackDown, usually I'd go through the card, mostly chronologically, and say what happened and give my thoughts on it. We're not doing that today. Got to go straight into the big thing that happened, as I mentioned before. There was a WWE Championship change. Cody Rhodes defeated Drew McIntyre in the rematch that Nick Aldis set up at the Elimination Chamber. Cody Rhodes is the new WWE Champion. Out of nowhere, if you go back 2 years, he had never won the thing. Out of nowhere, it feels like Cody Rhodes is now a 3-time WWE Champion and will be carrying the belt into WrestleMania to go against his longtime friend, Randy Orton, his legacy running mate. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, what more can I say? It's a match that I think a wide majority of wrestling fans wanted to happen. Some feel this is late for it. I don't think so. I think it's a good spot for it. Felt like a match that was always going to happen at WrestleMania. Randy Orton, long out of the title picture. Not out of the picture, but it's been a long time since he held a championship. It's been like 5 years, I think, since Randy Orton was world champion. So happy to see him not only back in the world title picture, but back in the world title picture at WrestleMania with a real chance to win. Because I want to see Randy Orton have the belt again. I want to see Randy Orton get another championship run. And also, Randy Orton, in a promo that he gave, to open the show initially, said he's only had 2 WrestleMania main events in 20 years, which feels wrong. That feels like he should definitely have more. I don't even remember when he main evented, but that's wrong. It's Randy Orton. He needs to be in the main event. That's Randy Orton. One of the biggest names in the history of wrestling. People who don't even watch wrestling know what the RKO is, which means they know what Randy Orton is. We got to get Randy Orton in more main events. So I'm glad that he's getting this opportunity to main event, likely night 1, because, regardless of how you slice it, Cody and Randy is not beating CM Punk and Roman Reigns in terms of star power and importance. So night 1 main event, we take that. Randy Orton will become a 15-time WWE World Champion. But there was a lot of backlash against Cody Rhodes winning the championship. And I wasn't happy about it initially either. I know why they did it. I just told you the whole spiel about Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Something people have wanted for a while. That match, that story writes itself. The match will be good. No doubt in my mind. So I'm fine with that. But you have people botting dislikes on WWE's YouTube to hate on it. There's a ton of backlash. Cody Rhodes can't do anything right in the eyes of the internet besides say Raheem. So, I don't know. He was held by Jacob, but that was the interesting thing. I kind of had a feeling Drew's title reign was ending, which another thing, by the way, quick tirade. Drew McIntyre had not held a world championship properly since he lost to Randy Orton in 2021. So he's had pretty much the same time away from world titles as Randy Orton has, because he did win one at WrestleMania 40, but lost it in 5 minutes. Never had a proper run. Finally got the belt in January from Cody Rhodes in 3 stages of hell. And his title reign consisted of a defense against Sami Zayn. And then all he did was interfere and cost Cody everything. Kind of played second fiddle as champion still to Cody Rhodes, who was trying to work his way back and ultimately got himself into a match with Cody Rhodes because of it and then lost the title. So Drew McIntyre had a 2-month reign where he had one title defense against Sami Zayn, who was never really a threat, and then lost the belt after playing second fiddle to Cody Rhodes. I mean, what are we doing? Everybody says Drew McIntyre deserves better. They finally give him the championship. Ratings went up. You know, he was drawing. People like Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is a good champion. But what he got to work with, I mean, in hindsight, why even put the belt on him at that point? You could have drummed up more interest in Cody and Randy if Cody just held the belt forever until WrestleMania and then lost it to Randy. I know they wanted to give Drew something. I thought Drew McIntyre was doing good work for what he was given. In hindsight, he wasn't given very much. And I thought he deserved to carry the belt into WrestleMania. Randy Orton winning the Chamber was the right choice. I thought that would somehow culminate in like a fatal four-way until I heard, suggestions of one's matches between Cody, Randy, and Jacob. Drew and Jacob also, I thought, deserved to maybe get that main event, even though some people might feel like it's young and like, I don't know, but I just thought Jacob deserved it. He was doing good. I kind of foresaw a fatal four-way. I understand not everything has to be a multi-man match. And I'm fine with this not being, but I do think Drew deserved better. And I also think Jacob was deserving of getting that spot at WrestleMania in a WWE Championship match, which Jacob has still not had a WWE Championship match through this all. He beefed with Cody Rhodes, who is the current champion now. He beefed with Drew McIntyre, who was champion at the time. And he still hasn't gotten himself a match. That's a little bit crazy. Little bit crazy for me. But nonetheless, Jacob and Drew McIntyre will most likely face in a stipulation match at WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton are going to finally face off, which I'm excited for, as long as Randy Orton wins the championship. Because if Randy Orton does not beat Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania for that championship, then we're going to be coming back here as a very angry camper. I can promise you that. Tirade aside now. The rest of SmackDown. Let's run through it very quickly. It's already coming up on time. Jeez. Trick Williams actually interrupted Randy Orton and was angry because Randy said he wasn't 6'5" at Elimination Chamber. That caught him an RKO. Some funny stuff. Nothing major. U.S. Open Challenge. Melo came out, did one again. This time it was answered by the Mexican luchador, Dr. Wagner Jr., who we've talked about on this show because he feuded with Ethan Page in NXT. I was happy with this. Dr. Wagner Jr. is a great wrestler, put on a great match with Melo. Again, not one where you thought Melo was going to lose, but just getting those types of matchups, getting these guys in, kind of like when he faced Leon Slater. Like Leon Slater is from TNA. Nobody thought Leon Slater was going to beat Carmelo Hayes for that championship while being an active TNA wrestler, but it's nice to see. Nobody thought Dr. Wagner Jr. was going to win that match, but it's nice to see, and it gives Melo a nice dance partner because those guys can really go. So Melo retained, just another notch in the belt of, his great reign that based off Ilya Dragunov's reign, that based off Sami Zayn's reign. I mean, Sami Zayn, I was texting a friend last night, like, we have to give him credit. He kind of saved that championship from where it was with Solo Sikoa. It was not getting defended. Sami took it, started the open challenge back up. Ilya continued it. Melo continued it. They have to knock Melo's successor out of the park because this might be the greatest string of championship reigns, especially on a mid-card title, that the WWE has ever had. These guys are going off, and I'm really happy that Melo is getting the spotlight to finally shine. Ilya, though, still wants to earn his shot. Seemed like he was going to face Kid Wilson. I don't think he ever did. Not on Friday, at least. Maybe down the line, but Ilya Dragunov wants to earn his shot. I think he will have earned it by WrestleMania. And him and Melo, again, whether it's ones or whether it's a multi-man match, will wrestle in some capacity at WrestleMania, which I'm looking forward to because those two, big history, great matches. You know the whole deal. We've talked about multiple matches of theirs on this show. We had the formation of what I call the Wepa Truth, because Damian Priest and R-Truth were put into the tag turmoil match for the number one contendership to the tag titles. And to many people's pleasure and many dismay, they actually won. They came out last. It was a tag gauntlet match. You had the likes of Motor City Machine Guns, Los Garza, Fraxium in it. I mean, 3 great tag teams. You guys know how I feel about Fraxium if you've been watching this show. I said last year I thought they were the best tag team in the company, and I think if given the opportunity, they will be that again. They're just too good, and I'd love to see them win those titles at some point. But that's neither here nor there because that didn't happen. It was R-Truth and Damian Priest that actually won. So they will be getting a tag team championship shot against the current champions in the form of the MFTs. Will they win that? Probably not. But R-Truth in the title match, I'm always going to watch. So, and Los Garza had a good showing. They were in there for a while. They eliminated Fraxium. They eliminated the Wyatt Six via MFT interference, of course. And then lost to Priest and Truth at the end after being in there for a while. But they had a good showing. So, props to them. The Irresistible Forces came out to celebrate their championship win a week prior, that being Lash Legend and Nia Jax. It was interrupted by both Charlotte and Alexa and Kiana James and Julia. Those two faced each other in a tag match. It was ultimately Charlotte and Alexa that picked up the win and will likely be the first challengers to the Irresistible Forces, because I think they were pretty sure that that was the stipulation. Like there was a number one contenders match on the line. I think that's what it was. So Charlotte and Alexa will finally be wrestling for the women's tag team championships again after losing them. I don't think they have. They lost them, a while back now to the Kabuki Warriors, and I don't think they've rematched for them since. So good to see them back in that, picture. There's another segment backstage where Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn got into an argument. Cody was accusing Sami Zayn of politicking his way into another title match, which I mean, fair. Everything Sami said throughout these couple weeks where he's arguing and calling people out has been fair criticism. Always goes back on his word. And that was another thing people had problems with. They've had Sami building up why Cody Rhodes doesn't deserve this rematch, why Cody Rhodes shouldn't win this title, and then they give it to him anyway. It just felt weird. But I digress. They've had some good segments recently with those two. Sami then went to Randy Orton and asked him how he did what he did to Cody, meaning pulling the trigger, because he says Cody is one of his best friends, but he pulled the RKO trigger on him without hesitation as an elimination chamber to get that title match. And Randy simply just told him that you got to be selfish sometimes in the business, which is something that Sami Zayn is not often. And Randy says he's got to listen to the voices. So maybe a little change in Sami Zayn's character moving forward. Got also Aleister Black in his ear. And Aleister Black told him not to worry about Randy Orton. So we'll see what happens there. Jade and Rhea had a promo. They met. There was some reports of real heat between them. After Rhea won the Elimination Chamber, there was an exchange on Twitter that people said turned real. Not sure, again, if it was worked or if it wasn't. I think I said that last week. But nonetheless, they met face-to-face in the ring on SmackDown. Jade told Rhea that she was not impressed by her, said she was going to beat the heck out of her at WrestleMania. Rhea responded, said that Jade's body, because obviously they're both in phenomenal shape, said Jade's body was built for show. Hers is built for fighting. She was going to beat up Jade at WrestleMania. She said Jade can't do anything about it, what she's going to do to her at WrestleMania. So, again, there's potential in that match. A lot of people don't like Jade. A lot of people don't like Rhea. Fortunately, a lot of people don't like a lot of things. A lot of people aren't appeased by anything at this point. But there is potential in that match. Power versus power. You know how those matches usually go. Usually good or usually really bad. We'll see what happens. But I am slightly intrigued. We'll see what happens there. Again, I said Bianca Belair not coming back. Naomi not healthy. Well, healthy, but I mean, she had a kid. So, I mean, next best option was Rhea. I don't think anyone else feels like a real threat to Jade. So I'm fine with it. Johnny Gargano finally got up, much to the pleasure of Candice LeRae after this slump he's been going through. Went to the ring, said he was one of the best wrestlers in the world, would welcome any challenger. That drew Obafemi. Need I say more? It's literally my note here. Need I say more? Obafemi ran through him. Bit disappointing to know what Johnny Gargano was at a point and what he's become now. But Obafemi completely ran through him, which carried into Monday Night Raw where he faced Rusev, which was surprising to say the least, but we will get there. Bo Dallas, again, sent another message to the MFTs. Those two are not done with each other. Thank goodness Jade ran into Michin again backstage, and they set up a match for this Friday on SmackDown. Thank goodness Jade is finally going to beat Michin because this has gone on way too long. And Danhausen had a very busy first week in WWE. Debuted at Chamber, got booed, then came on Monday Night Raw, got a great reaction, cursed Dominic, made him lose the title. Met The Miz looking for a mentor, cursed The Miz if he doesn't help him. So crowd was already catchphrasing him on day 2. I mean, big stuff. He got over in a week, which is really good to see. And yeah, that pretty much wrapped up SmackDown. And now Monday Night Raw, breeze through this. Nothing to predict for the coming weekend. Very odd opening segment. Adam Pearce called Seth out to have a chat. A bunch of masked men just flooded the arena before Seth finally revealed himself as one of them in the ring. Adam Pearce just plainly told them not that they don't deserve it, but said this whole thing was unacceptable, what Seth was doing, and he warned him of consequences to come should he not stop. Theory and Logan came out and interrupted the whole thing. The masked goons came out to camo Seth and allow him to escape. Following that, LA Knight came out and he battled with the Vision. Then the Usos came out to help LA Knight battle with the Vision. And ultimately, the Vision, being Logan Paul and Austin Theory, escaped. I don't know what the heck was going on with the masked men stuff. I mean, I don't know what the direction is there. They're just going to have Seth be a master of masked goons. And, I mean, Seth hasn't still spoken on what he did. He hasn't said a thing. So maybe next week. We'll see. But very odd. Very odd. The Usos then said they were aimed to get the Vision because of what they did to Jay, obviously, or allegedly did to Jay. But they said they had something to say to Punk because, as we talked about last week, Punk was very disrespectful towards Roman Reigns' father, who I believe is, I don't remember which Wild Samoan it is, honestly. Let's look it up. Let's look it up together. Was it Afa or Sika? It was Sika. Okay. I don't know why I forgot that. Roman Reigns' father, Sika, obviously now deceased, rest in peace, but CM Punk was very disrespectful towards him, or at least that's how they took it, because Roman said, CM Punk said he was going to bury Roman Reigns next to his father at WrestleMania, which is, like we said last week, a crazy thing to say. So the Usos had some comeuppance to come for Punk later in the show, which they did. CM Punk came out, cut a promo to close. Usos interrupted, wanted an apology. Jimmy says it wasn't about Roman Reigns. It was about respect. CM Punk said that Jimmy was right. And he talked a little bit about Afa and Sika and his experiences with them back in the day, how they helped him out a lot, and how everybody in that family has always shown him respect except for Roman Reigns. And again, Jey Uso crashed out. CM Punk told him that he wants an apology. This is not about Roman. Punk baited them, said he was apologizing for the way Roman treated his family and never apologized for it. Why was Roman never on the hook for an apology? That didn't sit well. Usos put Punk on his behind to close the show. I wonder how they're going to factor into all this because they got their own stuff going on, but it seems that the Crash Out Usos are coming back in some regard. Women's gauntlet match was sick. That was great. Io Sky and Lyra Valkyria opened. Io beat Lyra. Thought Lyra might come in a little bit later, but she got eliminated first. Then Io Sky went against Raquel Rodriguez. Liv and Stephanie Vaquer had a brawl with one another. Getting more build towards their WrestleMania match. Io Sky ultimately got the win, then got attacked by Raquel Rodriguez. Ivy Nile took advantage. Ivy Nile pinned Io Sky off the Raquel Rodriguez attack, which I mean, Ivy Nile pinned Io Sky. That's a big thing for her, regardless of how it happened. Her grace didn't last too long. Bailey came in, eliminated Ivy Nile, and then Bailey had ones runs at the end with Asuka, beat her. There was some Lyra Valkyria and Kairi Sane interference outside the ring, but Bailey got the job done and will face AJ Lee next week on Raw for the Intercontinental Championship. I thought there was like 5 potential winners here that made sense, but I think I picked Bailey. I don't know if I said it on the show. I definitely told a friend. I picked Bailey because I know she and AJ have history. They are good friends, and AJ wants to work Bailey. So, not surprising winner there. And looking forward to their match next week, which I think could be good. We'll have to see which version of AJ Lee shows up, but that match could be good. Natty got interviewed, got attacked by Maxine. That thing is far from over. More Danhausen, second Raw appearance. Met OGL Grande Americano in the back and cursed him. So, GG's. It then ended up being El Grande Americano, the fraud version, as we call him on this show, that showed up and took the challenge from Penta, who cut a very emotional promo, very passionate promo about him winning the Intercontinental Championship. Also want to say it's good to see the Intercontinental Championship being defended in week 1 of Penta's reign. Hopefully that keeps up like they do with the U.S. title. Nevertheless, OGL Grande was attacked, I think, by the Los Americanos goons in the back. They also set up OG versus Fraud El Grande next week on Raw. Don't know if that will include an unmasking. I thought that might happen at WrestleMania because, I mean, allegedly Kaiser and allegedly Chad Gable, they could have a great match together. Thought it might be a WrestleMania thing. Might not be. We'll have to see. But those two will face off next week. This comes on the heels, of course. I don't think I had to say this. Penta retained, got his first title defense against El Grande Americano. Very good stuff. Very good stuff in the form of the El Grande's finally facing, Penta retaining. I have high hopes for a Penta reign. We'll see what happens. Liv Morgan, Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie sent Liv a big message via a video promo, which was, I thought, very well done. But I think the biggest stuff to happen from the show, the meat of Raw, happened with the Vengeance Day, and we're running low on time, so I'll get through this quick. The turn finally happened. Finn Balor and Dominic argued. Finn said that Dom's dad was right, that being Rey Mysterio, of course. That does not go over well in the mind of Dom. You cannot say something like that to him. Called him spoiled. A little word I'm not going to say because I can't say it on here, but they fought a little bit. Finn officially turned. JD McDonough turned on Finn, which was something people were thinking of, you know, which side is JD going to take? He sided with the Judgment Day, that being Liv, Raquel, Dominic. So those 4 are still intact. Finn Balor was kicked out. Officially, we have babyface Finn Balor back, and Dominic versus Finn Balor is definitely happening at WrestleMania now. So glad that finally happened. That was the biggest thing I think that happened on Monday Night Raw. Kofi was trying to recruit Javon Evans to the New Day after Javon beat him a few weeks ago. Those two are, you know, well, I guess that Javon's going to feud with the New Day in some form now. But Javon can't join them. Javon can't go heel. Javon just can't be heel at this point right now. Bailey also offered Lyra Valkyria the first shot at the title should she win. Lyra looked a bit disgruntled. We'll have to see how that relationship continues progressing forward. Maybe those two are going to face in the near future. I don't know. They did say Brock Lesnar was coming back next week. We'll see if somebody wants to answer his open challenge, which is now rumored to be Seth Rollins. Guess we'll have to see how that goes. But to wrap the show, last thing I have here. Obafemi I mentioned. I'm big on Obafemi. I want Obafemi to win King of the Ring. I want Obafemi to win the World Championship this year. I'd be perfectly fine with it. Seems like he might be on that trajectory because Obafemi ran through Rusev. It was a bit more back and forth. It was nice to see Oba get back in there with somebody who can actually give him a bit of a threat. But all things considered, Oba kind of ran through him fairly easily, and it was surprising. They clearly think highly of Oba, as they should. Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, maybe? But there was also rumors that Brock Lesnar doesn't want to lose a match till his retirement, which is fair. But if he's going to get retired by Oba, that's fine. If he's going to get retired by Gunther, though, do not have Oba face Brock, because Oba should not be losing to Brock Lesnar. He should be getting that big win and solidifying himself as a monster. We'll see what happens. WrestleMania coming up, Stand and Deliver coming up. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Another show to come very soon. And spring break next week. Won't be here, but I will be back in 2 weeks to break down everything. Thank you guys very much, and have a wonderful day.